All right, welcome back to another episode of Health, Wealth, and the Ultimate Self. I have a special guest, Rob Coates, health entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and I just found out a best-selling author of the book Connect and Grow Rich. So, always learning something new about you. So, I really appreciate you jumping on and being a part of our podcast.
Thank you. Very glad to be here. And I know it took a while to get this lighting and everything together, but we're gonna do it.
Yeah, that's all right. You're not in your normal setup, so I appreciate you jumping on while you're traveling here. So we met like 2 months ago. I think it was back in July, and again, I just had a big respect for your energy, your mindset, and I think that's where you gravitate towards people that again like give you the energy, and I think you're one of those people that bring positive and good energy into the room, and that's the first thing I noticed about you.
Likewise, it was really I was just getting on the journey of the peptides, and you were awesome because you had a wealth of information and all the words just seemed so big. And so, you were great because all you did was I asked you questions. I think we had dinner, the whole night. Like, well, what about this and what about that? And that's where we had this energy because we both want to help people. We love helping people. And as far as getting like down to like, you really knew about the labs and you helped me with getting like more extensive labs into looking into, all right, where's the problem with these health things come from? So that's one thing I appreciated about you. You were always a giver in that respect too. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, and just again, wish you were in Dallas or in the area so we could have more of those dinners and talks. But again, we'll have to make it happen. Miami's not a bad spot to have to go visit.
No, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad. So I think the biggest thing. So tell me, I got the hey, what you're doing right now kind of version of what you're into. I know you're in the healthcare field, medical field. How did you get started? Like, kind of how did you first put your feet in the kind of the healthcare field? Like, and how did you get to your books? I think you said you wrote the book back in 2006. So there's obviously something back 18 years ago sparking a fire within you.
Oh yeah, I think that fire sparked when I was 10. I remember being in church. My mother was a pastor. She wasn't like the main pastor. She would be like the one that's on the side, of the pastor. And she was like, it was offering, and I remember asking my father. My father used to be he was always so tight. And I asked him for money for the offering plate, and he was like, I don't have it, Doc. And I just knew, I said, this probably isn't going to go the way that I want this to go. So I better start making my own money. And that night I asked my mother, to be my first investor. And I think we went to like Family Dollar. Things were really $1 and stuff back then.
Yeah.
And probably some candy. And I set up something in the garage. And that was my first entrepreneur experience at 10 years old, selling candy, out of the garage. And I learned how valuable entrepreneurship was when I think I wanted to play, and I had a friend who wanted to get some candy but didn't have any money. So I was like, hey, well, just watch this and be here. And once you sell this, you can come out. And that's what I've learned valuable. Oh, I could make money at the same time and not have to be there. And that kicked off. I said, oh, I love this. This is great. I'm always going to try to do things where I'm not particularly doing the work, but I can connect the dots. So that's what started it from then. And then growing up, one of five, I'm number 4, right? So 3 older sisters, 1 brother. Then I had my baby brother who was like, the baby boy. And, when you're a middle child, you always want that validation and approval from your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And me, I always figured that, if I'm successful, maybe that'll make people love me more. So for me, that was like, I got to figure out a way. Because I my parents weren't I love you, I hug you. Like, they're more like, I did this, you got to, shelter and things like that. And I provide for you. So that's my love. But I always wanted like kind of more affection and things like that. And I figured that would be the way, even though now I know you're good enough, just being who you are. But that's what started it. It really started for me just wanting to feel loved. And even though it was a house full of people, with 7 of us in a three-bedroom house, I didn't have a bedroom until I was in 11th grade. I always felt alone. No matter how many people were there, I always felt like I was by myself. And success, being driven, those things like books, YouTube, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was the first book that really sparked it. And I always knew that I was just supposed to be wealthy. Like I've always felt, even though we didn't have anything, I always knew, like, no, I got a rich appetite, I got a rich taste. So I just got to work hard to get it. So that's what sparked the drive. But in my 20s, I did multi-level marketing. I was really successful in that space. Taught me a lot about sales, people, networking, things like that. And from there, at 24, I started a networking group called Network Your Life. And
Mhm.
Network Your Life, you would, I would have these events where people would come and exchange information and opportunities and things like that. And I would get like a setting. I like find like a really nice restaurant or a club that's not open on that day, and I just make it really sexy. I get a jazz band and things like that. I get a jazz band and I set it up in like tables because I was like, whenever I'm at these places, people just don't. Most people don't know how to network. Like it's
Yeah.
like the same thing, and it's like people that's putting cards in. But I said this is not effective. So I've always been like, all right, how can we be, more solution oriented and let this work? And I did it, and I did it for 2 years. I would get other speakers to come because I was really too shy back then, and I would have big speakers come, and I got like more credibility because who I was bringing. And then and after 2 years of doing it, I won Entrepreneur of the Year for my events. It was here in New York and LA, and we had a team of people, with my great friends that helped me. And then from there, I was talking to a girl that was a publisher, and she's like, "Well, you should write a book." And I was like, "Okay, all right, I'll do that." And something happened, and you know, she never got around to helping me, but I wrote it. It took me about 10 months to get it together, and came out when I was 26. So that came out when I was 26, and what's funny from that, originally I just said, "All right." I had Facebook. I don't even know if it was Instagram back then, but it was,
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, I thought everybody was going to buy the book because I had it, and that wasn't the case. So I said, I need to start speaking. So I did public speaking for like 2, 3 years. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I can keep going on and on, but like 30, when I was 30, I moved to Houston. And on the way to Houston, when I had nothing, when I had just got married, um, which is another crazy story. I got so many stories, but I don't want to take up with them. How I got married, it was a shotgun wedding. It was crazy. My mother was dying. She said that was her last wish. So I did it in less than a week. And, December 22nd, I get married. Then she dies right after Christmas. And then, I'm so broke. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? We moved to Houston with my wife at the time, her mother, in Sugar Land, Texas. And one of my best friends, Josh Ross, comes and says, "Hey, you need to look into something called compound pharmacy." And that's what got me into healthcare. Because before then, all I did was networking, network
Yeah.
marketing, like things like that. And then when I got in healthcare, and people didn't necessarily have to pay to get in, they could just use insurance. When I found out that, like, oh, insurance is going to pay for everything, it went from nothing really to 9 months. I had everything I ever wanted. Like it was. I remember that I had a 2002 BMW X5, 300,000 miles. And, you know, my first car I got was a Rolls Royce Phantom. It was like, I'm extreme, so like if I'm going to, I'm going to do it big. Like my first house I got was 20,000 square feet. It was, the first house I ever owned in my name. All right. It took me to 30, but like 22 car garage, it was crazy, So I'm when I do things, I do it extreme and I go all out. And yeah, that's what got me in healthcare, a decade ago. And I went from, compound pharmacy related things where you tailor make specific products for people, to labs, to our own personal injury clinics, to restaurants, to clubs, to now I have a wound care business called CarePath Biologics, where we help patients that have, amniotic. We help patients with amniotic skin grafts that have like foot ulcers. They have hard to heal wounds. And
Yeah.
then my other business is peptides. Care pyramid peptides, which is probably one of my favorite things to do now because more than ever I know health is wealth, and I've just been fascinated by this whole regenerative medicine peptide world, putting things in your body that naturally already in your body, but it's like I know scientifically, like once we get labs and things like that, that this will work. Like, and I love that. It's not a
Mhm.
guesswork. It's spot. Okay, if you're deficient in this, we can get this. So that's been my one of the best things I love doing now because everybody needs
Well, I think it's interesting. Do you think, so you said you started with kind of, the multi-level marketing piece, which, with that, like there's a lot of like, sweat equity that you have to put into that in terms of building relationships.
it. Yeah.
So I think that really ultimately builds the foundation because if you can be successful in that and then you move into something that's medical, again, it translates, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think the like what I learned in network marketing, direct selling, it was amazing. It was so fun. Sometimes people have a negative connotation about network marketing sometimes because maybe sometimes how people are getting in, they're excited, and they try to like they feel like they're getting sold to. But as far as like the learning curve, the friendships I built, the relationships I have, like why I know how to sell, why I'm not like it taught me more than college. It taught me more than personal development. Like
Mhm.
I mean, like I start reading because of network marketing and the relationships and sales. These are things you carry all throughout your life. So I think a lot of people um, that didn't have it from various backgrounds. This is like your hard not life, how you learn, how do you get over like selling and comfortable with people. Because once you can do direct selling, if you can make money in network marketing, everything else is easy.
Mhm.
Like everything else is was really fun. Like I barely made over 100,000 after being involved in network marketing 10 years. And once I got in healthcare, in less than 7, 8 months, I was at 100,000 a month. So like it really taught me a lot. Without that, so in sales in general, and just good people, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Do you what do you think's the biggest part, again, for people listening, I think when it comes to sales, like, do you have any advice that makes you a better person, like when it comes to selling? And because I think the connotation of selling, like whether it's you go to a restaurant, it's always exchange of something, right? And we call that a sell, but it's like some things feel more, kind of forced, but it's always happening, whether it's advice, like you're always trying to sell a thought or something, or regardless of what it is. Your doctor is like, hey, you should do this. It's still some type of tactic to encourage you to do an exchange. And
Yeah.
do you think there's one kind of trait or kind of skill that makes you a better salesman than others, or what do you think is the most fundamental?
Yeah. Well, I went to school for psychology, right? And I've always I don't know, I didn't tell the story, but I started cutting hair when I was 12 years old. So um, with cutting hair, when you're a barber, right? And I was been self-taught. I've never went to college, for any of these things, or as far as cutting hair, actually helped put me through college. But when you get a chance to like just listen, and when you cut somebody's hair, that's like a very for men, it's like an intimate time because you get to go so close and they trust you with their face, right? And these are normally relations that you build. Like when you get a barber, people don't normally, switch barbers all the time. It's like cheating if have a barber. So that taught me just the power of listening, the power of trust. It taught me, I just built so many great relationships because when you take somebody from ashy to classy, or you help them, when you look good, you feel good. When they come in one way, that you can like talk and they can like share certain things that they normally wouldn't say at home. It's kind of like, you know, they say like it's a poor man's golf course. You know what I'm saying? Because you get to go and talk and have conversations. And that for me, like, has always been intriguing because this the power of listening and understanding people from an empathetic level. Like a lot of times people are listening to respond and not listening to hear. Right. And it's so much more powerful when you actually can get in and like quiet your thoughts, quiet your mind, and just see it through this other person's eyes. And when you understand, it's all about philosophy. Like a sale is a transfer of energy. So that's
Mhm.
all you're doing is transferring your energy, because either you're getting sold on why you shouldn't or should do something or not, right? Either way, it's either going to be yes from you or yes from them. And once you understand, this is what it takes to play the game. Like if you want to be, if you want to have anything, even with getting a woman, right? Like you have to be the best person in her eyes for her to choose you. Like it's no way around that. You don't just get it because you're a good person. Like as men, we got to for us to be able to have value, we got to we got to really bring value to the marketplace for us to really accomplish or get things that most people can't, right? So we can't just come in and be like, oh, I'm a nice person, like, no, you have to build yourself up. So a sale is, when you look at it from the perspective, is all right, if you have something you're doing, you're passionate about, and you love it, like all you're doing is you're pulling somebody to, instead of pushing, like, and instead of
Yeah.
making somebody do it, you're pulling them to, like, even with like healthcare with peptides, right? Like when I'm listening to you, and I was telling you that one of my close friends, my cousin actually, had a stroke, and I love this. I love him. You know what I'm saying? This is one of my favorite cousins, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And I'm saying, what can we do to, is anything now? Because right now, this moment, you can't use, I was saying, the right side of his body. And he taught me how to play piano. And you're like, you give me all these suggestions. Are you selling me on things that we have to do? Or are you just telling me, you're more of a salesman than a salesman, right? So you're saying,
Yeah.
hey, I've been on this. This is another way that we need to do this. We need to strengthen this once we find this. So I think it's, when you're doing something that you ultimately believe in, it's not a sale, it's a tell.
I think that's kind of where, when I asked you that question because I think every time I talk to people who are good entrepreneurs, understand the psychology that everybody like gets is like you just listen, like you just shut up and you listen.
Mhm.
And again, and because a lot of times people don't get that, if you want to go to and you want to feel it, go to a car lot and be sold a car. There's a lot of people that just kind of come up and it's very, for some it feels very transactional. It's just like, oh, they just want my money. It's just they just want to get me. They're not really listening. They're listening, but that's very superficial. It might be, hey, what's your budget? Okay, cool. Like what color? Like not really getting down into like why do you want this car, like how will it make what do you need this for? Oh, you got family and kids, you want to feel safe and protected, and maybe taking that time to listen. I think that's really unique because I get that obviously from listening to you is you're very kind of, again, you listen well, and again it makes sense that you're a good business person from it. And because again it's, if you listen, then you'll get the empathy, you'll get the other kind of factors that people like, hey, now I trust you. You're actually listening to me. You're asking questions that are more secondary and tertiary, kind of below the surface. You're getting to know me. You're not, it's not just like you just don't want my card to swipe. You actually want to take the time to get to know me. And I think that's, very critical. And I think, being in the healthcare field, the way we set up our office is like we bill like 30, 60, 90-minute blocks, 2-hour blocks, depending on the complexity, because we have to listen. And again, and for most people, they're used to 5 to 7 minute visits with the doctor. And it's just very like superficial. And again, like I had this, like 2 weeks ago, I went with somebody to a doctor's appointment, and man, it was, doctor comes in, and again, this is your traditional like medical model. It's like 5 to 7 minutes. They're telling this person that, hey, you're going to need surgery, and it's just so like superficial. And then they're like, all right, you have any questions? Well, I just told you need surgery. I'm asking if you have any questions. So you probably have 1,000 thoughts going through your head, and then they just walk out of the room, and they're like, we'll get you booked for surgery. And as it sets in, the person's like, man, this is a lot to think about. And now they have more questions, but the doctor's gone, and they're like, kind of like almost anxious from it. And again, now they're like, they're not really comfortable with the surgery. And again, so that kind of, after that, we walked out, we left the office. I'm like, I mean, I think you could do that better, feel less rushed. But again, the way the system works is whether you spend an hour with that patient or 7 minutes, they're probably going to reimburse you the same under the insurance model. And it's kind of one of those limitations I think is hurting healthcare pretty bad.
Yeah.
It, again, it's hard to get people to change their habits because you got to sell them on why you need to change. And to do that in 5 or 7 minutes, whether it's surgical or lifestyle or exercise, it takes time,
Hmm.
it
I,
takes listening.
yeah, I think what you're saying when I listen to you is that it's a book that says everybody loves to buy, but people hate to sell, right? And like when you go into a grocery store, let's say Whole Foods, if somebody immediately comes in and says, "Hey, can I help you?" You're like, "No." Even though you may need help, you're like, "No." You don't like being like you don't like being rushed. And right now, I think trust is at an all-time low because it seems like a lot of people don't really care. But when you find somebody that cares, right, or you feel like they care, people open up. They open up
Mhm.
because I think a lot of people want to be loved and really cared about, but I just think it's this fear thing now. It's like I don't want to let you in because I don't want to start trusting you and you hurt me, right? Or you take advantage. And there's so many people, or we let experiences from our past sometimes dictate our future because we're still living in it, and that
Mhm.
experience was just a lesson. It wasn't meant to be like every time you think about something to bring it up. It's like you get smarter, you get better, and you move forward. But like you said, with healthcare in general, and that's why I love personalizing these things to like people because when you personalize something, you figure out okay, it's not a one size fits all. Make me feel special, right?
Mhm.
And I think people have this, everybody has this little this something inside of them that says, all right, make me feel good, make me feel special. Because when people truly know, it's not what you say, it's not what you do, but it's how you make me feel. And the
Mhm.
live with people when they understand that that's all you got to do. And if you want to be wealthy, just do that with a lot more people. Like make a lot of people feel good, and you'll get the things that you want. But in healthcare, you're right; it is so quick. It's such about money, 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 insurance, things like that, that it does get misconstrued. But it's great. It's people like us that's out there that's changing that culture.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's it. It's just insurance is the way I mean, I try to tell patients too, is insurance is a very sick care, acute care model.
Yeah.
But what's going to fix why you're getting the sick care is this model over here that's going to be more on your, slow down, figure out where things might have got started, what's contributed to them, what are kind of exacerbators, and there might be more than one, or it might be multiple. And then how do you start to unravel that? It's not a quick fix. It may take 6 months, it may take a year, it may take 2 years. Who knows to unravel the patterns of behavior that led to the kind of the acute scenario.
Right. Right. It's gonna take some time. Like you can't, it takes you 5 years to get to the where you actually see it manifest or external. But you don't know that, internally you've been doing this for years. And it's like it's not something gonna be quick that just fixes it all. You're right. Like and I think that's something we people just have to understand with healthcare when they start taking certain different things. Everybody's body is different, and I know once you start optimizing your body hormonally, and you start getting the right things in your body, like allow it to take time and be consistent. And I think that's even with success, even with so many other things, it's all really about you just being consistent and doing something daily, right? And
Mhm.
like rocket scientist for somebody when you see somebody that's at a amazing level. It's like it's not that a lot of these people don't even want that. It just came with them being consistent and them being, persistent over time. That now they got so much practice that they're amazing, but it's something that happens over time, and you just got to give yourself time and be patient and know that one of the things I love, it's an actress, I think her name is Jennifer Love Hewitt, but she says you got to be happy on the way to happy, right? Like you
Mhm.
can't a lot of times we think success is moving targets. So when we get, all right, when I get the Rolls Royce is when I'm successful, right? When I get the house, when I get the jewelry, no, you're successful the moment you start on that journey. You say, you know what? I'm going to do this because I just believe it is something inside of me that's telling me I should do this. And I'm going to follow that. That to me is success. Yeah, that to me is success.
Well, I think if you picture, you out of college to you and getting the house and the Rolls Royce, like you were at this point to this point. That's all growth in between that step. And there's so many little steps of growth every day, every month, every year. You're acquiring knowledge to change your outcomes constantly. And I
Yeah.
think, but so many people are like fixated on, I don't have the house yet, or I don't have the dream car yet. and they get so distracted from that little, like, not having the satisfaction of the outcome, but not and missing the realization that they're building successful habits and outcomes the entire way. And like this,
The media, or that social media
oh,
does that. Like social media, oh my God. And then too, like with that, that was when I was 30. I'm 41. I know, look, 21 people out there. But that was I've had it all and lost it.
yeah,
So like,
you,
you
you
know,
said you how many times?
3 times. You know, I made 8 figures and lost it 3 times. You know, and a lot of people quit after that first time. Like some of the experiences, you know, and we got to do more of these podcasts because I mean, if I just start telling you other stories, because I like telling stories more than just like facts because people can relate. I'm more
Yeah,
related now. Once you hear, oh shit, like what? I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get some money, finally, like you work all your life to get this get the stuff that externally, like, all right, you feel accepted, you feel appreciated now, and when you get it, it's like, oh, but the people I neglected, a lot of people along the way, or my true friendships or friends to get this, or you get it, then the people think you change, right? So with success, with having these things, it's a lot of trauma that gets there too, and you don't know until you lose it all. Like when a person has lost it and made it, I think they're I ain't gonna say a bad person because people can be good, but you're really humble. You really know the value of things once you don't have it anymore. You can like a woman, right? You can have an amazing woman, and you could get it all. Then you start feeling big headed, and you're the man. And then when you lose it, you be like, oh, you know, oh man, like I
you
lost that. It was amazing. But guys, it takes us a while. It takes us usually to lose it, to value it, you know. And that's just the same thing too. Like you were saying.
who trying who's the clip I saw? Like it takes losing everything to realize your true value, your true friends. Was it? It might have been Trump saying it, like like an old post from the '80s.
Yeah,
But it's true, right? Like,
yeah.
you know, who's around you when you're at your worst, supporting you versus when you're at your best. Like, if the
Mm.
same people aren't around you when you're at your kind of down spot, like that's a telltale sign of like, yeah, who are your true friends? Are even in the worst of the worst, they're still your friend. They don't care because again, it's not about the monetary or the things. It's about the what you bring to them from a relationship standpoint and what they can bring back to you. And I think going into that same piece when you talk about if you lose it, but the entire value you've put into like your meaning in life is about attaining something that can be lost,
Yeah.
then if you lose it, like you're devastated versus realize like, well, shit, like I've made it once, I can make it again. And then on top of it, you can't bring it when you're dead. And you don't that money ain't going with you, the car or the house. And I
Man,
think that's the unique thing when you look at like people like you or other entrepreneurs, like they're not so much tied to necessarily the money, like that's a plus, but it's the journey to get there. It's the puzzle they're solving to go from starting a business to making it successful.
mhm.
Not so much the money that they thrive off of, it's like seeing the little victories to get there. And again, and as you know, starting one business and starting more, that's the same thing. Like I get that piece of like, oh, this is fun. Like starting businesses, like it's stressful, but it's a fun type of stress because it's equations, it's problem solving, it's growth. Like it's uncomfortable at times, but it's like the moments of where you're uncomfortable and then you get comfortable, like that is you learning and having massive growth that you had to be kind of stressed out a bit to go through.
Yeah, yeah, and like one of the things you said, a key point you said, when you like you lose it all, you realize that you had it all, you know, the whole time. And I say that
Mhm.
the people, when you find the friends and the people that are there for you, that you're doing all this to make people love you, not knowing that people love you just because who you are. And then what's even more important than that is you realize, hold on, you do it because you love you. You
Yep.
know, it took me a while to understand is that you got to have love for yourself first. Like you have to have, if I can get somebody in order of success, like you got to love you more than anything. Because if you don't love yourself, how can you truly love? You're not going to be able to love somebody else. Correct? You can't give from an empty cup, right? So you have to be able to love who you are and know that you're worthy. disappear. You're worthy just because of who you are. You know what I'm saying? So that's number one. Then second is your health. You got to take care of your health because people spend the first half of their lives accumulating money to get wealth. And then the second half, giving all their money to, to doctors and hospitals because they never took advantage of their health. So I think you, a person taking the time now when they're young and building healthy habits, like starting to eat right, like is sexy. You know what I'm saying? Taking care of your body. Just because I thought this because like I got all these cars and jewelry and all this stuff. Like, and women never say anything about it, right? Because they like baller bellies or guts and things like that. That's what I'm thinking. Then I'm like, hold on, I got sleep apnea. I'm waking up 10 times during the night. I went and got my check, my blood pressure check. This is less than 4 months ago, and my not just my blood pressure was high, but like my A1Cs was 8.5. Like, and I'm looking like seeing me, you wouldn't even know that. You'd be like, okay, because nobody really said like, and I always ate a lot of when I eat like a king, I eat everything, used to, but like now, like when I got on certain peptides and things like that, and I say, you know what, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life, and I changed it, and I changed it because of my son. Both my parents died. My mom died at 60. My dad died at 62. I mean, my mom died at 62. My dad died at 60. Now, my mom was 10 years older than my dad. So my mom passed in 2012. And then my dad died of a broken heart in 2018. Right. So for me, I always felt about the time I started making money, it was really sad. Like I got all this money and I was depressed because
Mhm.
I got it to, you want to take care of your parents. You want to take care of your mom. So I get all this stuff and you realize that I'd get everything back just to have my mom again. So you don't value like, okay, yeah, you don't have the stuff, but how much time can you spend with your mom now? You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to see her twice a year, 3 times a year because you're trying to get it. And it's like that's so it's so not important, in the grand scheme of things. And then with them not taking care of their health with certain things that they didn't know and things like that. But it's really sad because I didn't have, my son didn't meet his grandparents on my side, and there's all these things you feel like you feel alone. Like when you lose people, and I've lost a lot of people, you just feel alone. So you get this stuff, and it's like the stuff ain't gonna it is not gonna give what you want ultimately, which is love, which is internal things that are important. So for me, when I was going through this journey, I was talking to a friend, and he told me a story about a guy that was like 50. He was a billionaire. He has a 7-year-old son, and he died. Just had a heart attack. And he's like, "Now look at your son. Now I want you to look at your son. Your son is 8 years old. Like, who's going to raise and love your son like you? Who's going to do that? Why would you even play with it, that possibility, and not take care of yourself for him? That's very selfish when you think about it." And from there, I was like, "You're right," and I got angry, and I said, "I'll never let my son feel the things I felt, like, and just because you feel like a void, what I'm saying, when you lose a lot of people. And even like as my friends and close friends, they just keep like passing. Now I'm 40, and cousin passed this year of diabetes type things, and it's just like I hate it. You know what I'm saying? So am I gonna get angry and do something about it and create something where I can help my family? And the thing is, I got to do it first because I don't do it first. Who gonna listen to me, right? So when they see me, I'm in the gym and I started eating like cooking my own food, which is another passion of mine. But I'm doing all these things now because I have to do it, one, to be an example, but ultimately for my son, I got to set good habits, and it's about the future. It's about future generations. And why make all this if you can't enjoy it? And then you haven't instilled certain things in your kids that, yeah, even if he was left a lot of money, what are you gonna do with it? Because kids, he ain't got to struggle like like I had. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
or the financial skills. So what are you gonna do? So you got to take care of me. Take care of me so it's a better we. You know what I'm saying? We have to
Yeah.
get to the mentality of taking care of your health first, not all the things you got to do. You got to take care of that, like your life, like everything, like it matters first, because when you leave this world, there's so much things. There's so many people that you affect that you don't know you're affecting. And it's, you just have to just do better because people really do love you out there.
So you brought up a couple of points. Like you work so hard when you're young to make this like money, and let's say it's a fortune, or you turn it into something great. Guess what's the number one thing that bankrupts people over 65 is healthcare costs,
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say
Which,
divorce, but
well, I mean, it probably doesn't help, but like healthcare is the number one thing that leads to bankruptcy in the U.S. over the age of 65. So it's like, what
really,
is it busting your ass while you kind of just ignore the things that's probably the biggest vulnerability across quality. Like again, same thing, you can have all the money in the world, but if all of a sudden at 70 you're so beat up, you're, let's say, 100 pounds overweight, you can't walk up the stairs at in Greece to go sightsee, like what
yeah,
good is all that money? You can't even go enjoy the fruits of your labor because you neglected something that to me is the biggest
yeah,
indicator of wealth is your health. Like your health is the biggest wealth you can provide yourself.
man,
It's your visit, it's your vessel to move about this world. And once it's done, it's done. And again, I think it's interesting because I lost my dad at 11 in a car wreck, and then my mom died. Again, I wouldn't say broken heart, but all losing her husband at a young age, and then having to raise three boys, and
mm,
and she didn't really have to work up to that point where he died, and all of a sudden had to figure things out, and
mm,
it was a lot of, and so the stress of that, and
yeah,
she passed away from early onset dementia,
mm,
also, right? And again, and kind of that's one of my biggest passions of like, how do we take care of this to give us longevity? And the biggest thing to me, and I think it's the biggest way of people just passing off basically ownership of their health is, oh, it's just family history of this. Oh, it's just, I'm getting forgetful. I'm just getting old. I'm like, that's bullshit.
right,
Like, stop making permissions and excuses for your health to degrade and fight for it. Because again, when you lose it, you don't realize how hard it was to get to somewhere. And again, and I know you mentioned to me your cousin that had the stroke, right?
yeah,
And I always say to patients, like, picture when you're a baby and you have no idea how to walk and you're figuring that out. I think God puts a reason in that you don't remember the struggle of learning those basic fundamental skills. But when you're older and you have a stroke or a brain injury where you lose it and have to fight to get it back, you really appreciate how hard to get to something, but you had to lose it first.
yeah,
So what, like, to the person that hasn't lost it yet, like, don't just give it up so easily to be like, let it be taken from you on a whim or gradually from, if it's dementia, like that takes 20 years for somebody to get Alzheimer's to kind of be in full effect.
mm,
So what are you doing to prevent it? Or Parkinson's? You look at like somebody loses the sense of smell 10 years on, usually typically before they start to lose their memory. But again, like, it's not a big deal. It's like, you better start figuring these little warning signs out because we all have them, right? And like you said, you had a warning sign. You had your A1C flashing at you on labs, and you had a choice to make.
yeah,
What am I going to do about it? Either I can own this, I can clean this up, or I just kick the can around and say it's somebody else's problem. Like, hey, family history, cousin's got it, just nothing I can do. Like, I'm a victim. And I
mm,
think that to me is like, it's just, I feel bad for patients when they feel like they just allow themselves to fall into the victim role versus like, no, this is going on and I'm also the solution. I think that is such a better mindset. And like, again, like you said, in the dating world or health wise, like it's a much more attractive trait to me seeing somebody that takes ownership of every aspect of their life.
yeah. One of my favorite things I heard somebody say, I can't take credit, but he says, um, you got an expensive outfit on, but a cheap body. And people have these, you see people, they have these expensive, these nice things, which is, I love it. Hey, have all of it. But also too, like work on your body. Like I just think it shows, like it just shows discipline. It just shows so many different things about yourself when you just start to take yourself. It shows that you love yourself. Like it shows that I just think it's qualities. Like now, when I was, going through little stages of, I think we all get depression and we go through things. Like people think just because you have some you look like you got some money or you have some success at certain points, that we don't all go through the same mental battles. And, we got that inner person talking to us that you got to defeat on a daily basis. You got to kill that person in you. I mean, the negative side in you, because you got, I think, a fear and you have faith. So you got to always be strengthening every single day the faith, thing who you are. And I just really, really would love to, like, I think with us talking about it, like, let's talk about some proactive steps on what people can do to have better health, like what they can do right now, and what they can do that's not expensive. Because sometimes people think when it comes to health, like everything is just, all right, I have to have my money, I have to eat everything organic, I have to do all these things before, let me get my money right, and then as I get my money,
Yeah.
I'll do it. But let's give some viewpoints on how, let's say, a lot of people right now, a lot of people in this world have type 2 diabetes and they don't even know about it. I was
Yep.
walking around initially before everything got reversed with it, and not knowing, I had it as well. And I always got these, like, I would see people when I would get certain things done, IVs, and my doctor time would say, hey, you right there, you want to, I'm 40, I ain't about to whatever, and I played it, but I didn't understand. I didn't have any, Matt, at all, the understanding that I have now, just about just one, how crazy sugar is and what that does, and how everything breaks down to sugar and insulin. Like, I understand all that stuff so much better now that I'm counting calories when I go, even to Dave and Buster's for my son. I'm looking at the menu like 1,600. You know how many miles they got to run? One for that, like, and nutrition has played such a big part, even before the active, things you're doing. It plays such a big part. But what's some ways, Matt, that people can, what can
Well,
they do?
simple. I think eat at home, right? Like, especially like the whole idea. I don't have money to eat healthy. I'm like, yeah, but you're going out to drink Starbucks and put like all this stuff in there. Simplify and protect what's going into your body, right? Again, people like, what medicine, what peptide, what supplement can I take? I'm like, hey, you can take the best of the best, but what you put into your body is the very first thing. And so if you have the flexibility to do organic, great. If not, at least still put in healthy foods at first at home. Because the moment you go out to the restaurant has a margin that they want to make, and they may, hey, instead of giving you this, they're going to maybe put more kind of not great ingredients into it, and then start
What,
trying to clean up layer by layer, right? I think, what's
Matt,
that?
what type of, when we say healthy food, let's be even more specific on, like,
Okay.
what can they be? What are they? What should they? How important is protein,
So,
fat, carbs? Like,
so
let's go into.
I think if you look, right, I mean, we're making more obese and diabetic patients than ever before. We
Mhm.
spend, 1 to 2% increase every year on chronic disease. We have more and more people being diagnosed with chronic disease at a younger age. And so we have to kind of step back and look at, like, when did these patterns start to happen? You go back into, like, you go and you look at our food pyramid. Most people that work in the healthcare industry that actually make people get healthy off medications will tell you the food pyramid is a bunch of BS
Yep.
pushed by people that depend still on medications to fix the problems off that food pyramid. And again, you see it too online, and a bunch of influencers like, oh, you can eat whatever you want, da 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 da. It's just about calories in versus calories out. I'm like, look, when people have metabolic flexibility, yeah, you can eat crap and you can still burn. But what happens is the inflammation from the crap you put in slowly takes away your metabolic flexibility, where it's not a matter of calories in, calories out anymore. Things have started to damage the cells, so they don't respond to glucose and insulin the same way. Now you start getting insulin resistance. Now you can do it by just flooding the body with too much glucose, but it can be, there's certain things that damage your cells and your mitochondria. There's medications that do it. There's a whole host.
All these big words, man. My audience is gonna be listening. I need you to break all that.
So,
What is? How does that
but
get started?
but from a very simple standpoint, if you can hunt it, pick it, kill it, you should probably be able to eat it. If you understand how it got on your plate, it's probably not a bad thing, right? So again, your star of your plate should be protein, healthy fats, and then the smaller portion of your plate should be carbohydrates, or your carbs, your fruits, your sugars. that's a very generalized approach without knowing a thing about your health. Now, there's a reason for like AIP diet, Whole30 diet, keto diet. There's a reason for those diets because that diet is coming in to try to repair where they got broken, right? And so don't worry about that. Obviously, if that's what you need, then it needs to be more specific. But from a very general standpoint, like if you can hunt it, pick it, kill it, and you know how it's on your plate, then it's probably okay to eat. But if there's words like in the ingredients, like if you bought like a thing of green beans, but there's 12 chemicals on there that you're like, I have no idea what this like polysorbate, whatever is, like you probably shouldn't be putting it into your body, right?
Mhm.
I would just take that approach. It's very cost efficient, but the same thing. You go to Starbucks, you're going to spend $6 on a coffee, but tell me you don't have food to go to the grocery store to buy a healthy meal. I argue your priorities are the problem versus really like the financial aspect to it. Because I think, again, you have to prioritize where you put your money. And again, if your priorities are straight, then you realize like, oh, the Starbucks is taking my health and dialing it down. And the food I'm going to buy at the grocery store to cook at home is dialing my health up. And over time, this is going to yield a better net investment to my financial book, but also my health. But again, I don't, if you can't eat grass-fed meat, then don't worry about it. But still eating the chicken that you at least know is just chicken, not chicken plus batter and fried in some dirty oil, then you're still simplifying it down.
Even those oils, I didn't know how bad all them oils was too. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I also see like nutritionists like, oh, the studies show. I'm like, guess what? 93% of studies done by the industry on their oils say they're good for you. The other side, over half of them say they're bad for you. So it's like, which one are you going to believe? And again, a basic principle in research, if I'm trying to do research, let's say like, again, I own a product and I want to show it's healthy for you. I should have no ties to the research. I should give it off to somebody that has financial ties and it's a complete independent study. But that's not what's happening. And again, you're looking at these things and they're being funded by the companies and being pushed that they're sold. Then we have to look at the fact that there's 80,000 chemicals on the face of this earth and roughly like more and more every year. I think it's 2,000 more a year. Only 25% have been tested by our EPA, right? And they really don't have to be tested until they are shown to be harmful.
What's
So
EPA?
what's that?
What's EPA mean?
Environmental Protection Agency, right? So they're meant there to protect us from like big corporations.
Yeah.
Problem is our government and these big corporations are sleeping together. There are so many financial ties when you look at lobbying. And again, that's a whole other podcast. But when you look at ingredients, what's allowed in our food, and you go to Europe and what's allowed, the same box of Fruit Loops looks different than the box of Fruit Loops in Canada. Because Canada, like, hey, look, you can't put these food dyes in this food because it's bad for behavioral neural development in kids and digestive function. Yet we still allow the same stuff and crap in our food here, and you see it more and more in Europe. Like, so again, if you want to trust in the right things happening, who are you going to trust? Like, you're always going to listen to your gut and your instincts because you're going to be the most invested in your health outcomes, right? Nobody else is going to be as invested in you, or should they be? You should be the biggest advocate for your health. And unfortunately, when it comes to what's allowed in our food, I think that's where, unfortunately, there's people that are potentially, for hire when it comes to these things. So again, a very simple rule: if you can hunt it, pick it, kill it, eat it. So
Yeah.
mix up your vegetables. The more colorful and diverse they are, the great. Make sure protein, if you want to weigh 180 pounds, make sure you're getting roughly 90% of that in grams of protein.
Yeah.
Because one of the best indicators of how we're going to age is the lean body mass we keep as we age. I always ask people, do you want to look like the sprinter or the marathon runner when you're 80? I want to look like the sprinter. I want to look like I still have like muscle mass where I can protect myself. If I fall, I got muscle on my glutes to protect my hip from fracturing, right? And
Yeah.
because after 40 and even 30, like, it gets harder and harder to put that muscle mass on. And one of the biggest things that helps us make sure we at least replenish and protect our muscle mass is our protein intake. So if you're thinking about it in very simplistic terms, you eat 3 meals a day, each meal needs to at least have 30 grams of protein in it as a starting point. Now, that's probably going to work for a female, for you, for myself. We have, we're larger, we have more muscle mass
Yeah.
on than some. We're probably going to have to fight a little bit harder and up our protein intake. But that to me is how I would try to just pick little wins. And maybe you just start off on protein, right? Hey, I'm going to aim for 30 grams of protein per meal, and I'm aiming for a total of 150 per day for the person that wants to weigh 170 pounds. That might be the first step. But by them focusing on protein, they fill up on protein before they fill up on the crap and the fried and the unhealthy stuff. Like that's usually too. If you focus on that first, then the appetite for the bad stuff goes down. So those, again, it can be much more complicated. And I probably went way too long on it, but focus on protein, eat what you know where it came from, and start with that.
Nice. Okay. And I would say like too with me, something I've been doing. One is intermittent fasting between like 16 and 8. So I fast 16 hours and I eat between 8 hours. I wait to have my meal because in the morning I didn't know when you eat anything with sugars or carbs, it goes and raises your insulin, which is your fat storage, right? So if I do fasted cardio or if I do a walk or a run, what will start happening is I'll start burning the fat rather than storing something. So I don't eat anything till maybe like 2 o'clock, and then after 2 o'clock, I'll do meals that have between 50 to 60 carbs. So I'm on a carnivore diet now, so I'll do 6 eggs. I'll do a steak or
I saw your post the other day with like all the eggs on the plate. No.
yeah, like avocado and things. I hate avocado. You know what I'm saying, for the longest, but it's good fats. I do butter. I do the all the good butters you're supposed to do. I don't do sugar drinks anymore. I love sweets. I mean, the sweetest thing I probably eat now is probably this
Mango?
right? Which I love mangoes. I got a video eating mangoes.
I
Um,
think
I,
I saw it not too long ago.
I didn't know I was eating like them. It was so good. Like, 'cause I hadn't had like sweets so long, and I had a mango, and it was like everything. But I do that. I don't eat. I try not to eat between 2-3 hours before I go to bed. And when you do eat, just go take a walk. Do a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk. Just be active. You don't
Or
have
you
to
eat.
stop working out all the time, but you do want to, and we can also talk about this as well, like the GLP-1, 2s, and 3s, right? Ozempic, Mounjaro, retatrutide, things like that, testosterone. But in that world, you have to make sure if you are taking any one of these things that you got to do cardio resistance. You got to, cardiovascular activity and resistance training. Like you got to lift.
Up your protein, right? Like if you don't want the Ozempic body, like because again, at first, like I was not a huge fan of these meds, but then when you look at the studies that showed people that went on these medications, but they also just did, or they do, you look at somebody that just cuts calories and loses weight by significant caloric restriction, the amount of lean muscle mass is roughly the same. So again, your muscle mass is the biggest reservoir to dump glucose into it. So if you keep and put muscle mass on, it's going to keep and help you fight for insulin sensitivity and that relationship of being good at burning calories when you're in that fasted state.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think so lift heavy stuff. I mean, that's one of those things like walking's great for helping your post-meal blood sugar spikes, but you still need to continue to kind of fight to pull on those muscle fibers to continue to encourage them to grow.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, diet wise, I like intermittent fasting. The one thing I'll caution people when they do it in the window where you're eating your calories, let's say, Rob, you have a 2000, you burn 2000 calories per day. Or let's say you burn 2200, but you're eating 2000, so you're in a slight calorie deficit to lose weight. You're probably going to be okay, but you got to still, like a lot of people when they intermittent fast, when the windows are eating, they're not getting enough calories in because again, your body does not want you to starve to death or basically burn through. If you're not putting enough in, your body's like, I'm going to slow down my BMR, my basal metabolic rate. And the moment you eat above it, you may have lost 5 pounds doing intermittent fasting. Somebody just like, boom, I just gained 10 by eating high amount, like 2000 calories. Why am I gaining weight at 2000? The problem is, so if you if you're doing the caloric restriction or intermittent fasting, I love it. It's protective. There's very good benefits, but you still have to make sure you're hitting enough calories in the windows you're eating, or else you're going to see thyroid and metabolic consequences that start to work against you. If you are, if you're eating 800 calories over and over again, your body's going to slow down your metabolic rate. And
Got
so,
it. Got
I,
it. Makes sense.
yeah, so I love it. It helps you clear up, debris and bad protein. It ups your autophagy, which again is a very good master switch for kind of scavenging for bad actors in the body. So it's all good, but
Yeah.
there's a good way to do it, and there's a way where like you might kind of create a weight mechanism that frustrates you if you overdo it. So it's always like, yeah, I'm gonna eat in this window, but I am still eating my 2,000 calories in the window I'm doing it.
Yeah. And I think too, like people give Ozempic in these terms a bad name, but it's not Ozempic or Mounjaro to me that's doing it. It's the people that take it and people that abuse it, right? Because when you're on these, which I've taken all of them, semaglutide, semaglutide, whatever name you want, tirzepatide, and I actually take retatrutide now, which has been,
That's
I mean, I
three.
take several. I take NAD, NAD plus 1,000 milligrams. I do testmorelin. I do the Wolverine stack, which is the BP body protection compound, BPC 157. I do TB 500. I do a lot. I'm even experimenting now with Folostan and I think IGF 1. But
Mhm.
I study, I read everything that I'm doing. Like when I went and see my, my doc, my nutritionist appointment, you seen that she said, "Oh, wow, you lost 33 pounds and gained 6 pounds of lean muscle at the same time." So I'm different. Now other people, they get on it and they don't do cardio resistance training, or they like, just because you don't have an appetite because it shuts down the receptor in your brain that says you're full, doesn't mean that you don't eat anything. It's just you just eat better foods now. Like you're not starving. So all right, what can I eat? And that's why I think it just takes, like when they say your health is your wealth, like take some time to learn your health, learn your body. If the intermittent fasting, you see it and it's working, and I think if you regularly get like labs and checkups and these things done, you can see, okay, this is working. I'm deficient in this area. I need this area. But if you just really take, like you act like, all right, if you have a Bugatti, right? And, let's say your body is, Bugatti, but your engine is, a 1966, whatever beat up thing. It's like, we can't see what's going on, but we all have these amazing bodies that we're blessed with, that we just need to really take inventory and do checkups and see what we're doing. So I think with me and you, a lot of people, it's some people that have good results, but other people, and I think too, the people prescribing, a lot of times the doctors, people that's get into the business because the money side of it. Like, all right, well,
Yeah.
we
And
get
that
markup.
it drives me insane because we have a business that's trying to do weight loss right. And again, the looking at again my purpose in this world, right? My why is my mom's part of it. I don't want people to go through early demise and health issues, whether it's cognitive, whether it's cardiovascular, and or cancer for that matter. And if you think about somebody, the longer they're obese and overweight, you see
Yep.
10, 20% in cancer. You see a cardiovascular risk goes up 20 to 40%. You see stroke risk goes up. You see dementia risk almost double. If somebody becomes diabetic, they almost instantly double their dementia and Alzheimer's risk. And so,
And it kept up
look,
15 years. I read a stat, and 80% of chronic diseases and illnesses come from, being overweight and inflammation of the body, and like you said, all these things. So you're right. Like, my bad, girl, but you're absolutely like right. So we have to lose weight, and even the Ozempics, those were started for people that have type 2 diabetes and have a BMI over 25, 30%. Like it wasn't for the girl that wants to lose 10 pounds before this wedding. So she takes a high dose, right, of it,
she's skinny fat, or you know what I mean? Like,
right? So
yeah,
it wasn't like people are going to abuse things, but everybody's body works differently, and it's not just somebody. Now, some people have ill effects; they take it, and it may have an allergic reaction, but it ain't killing nobody. Like, unless you do a ridiculous dose and certain things like that. But if you monitor, and I think really you just, all right, as you're getting these things, I ask questions, and then it's so many other things, other peptides out there besides just the famous ones that we know about now. Like it's so
Yep.
many other amazing ones that I mean,
Mhm.
just don't know about because they haven't taken the time. But
Well, I got a patient. I mean, again, high level manages a decent chunk of funds for people, and
a lot of money.
a lot of stress on it, right? And he's like, man, I don't like my testosterone's like 200. My doc's telling me it's low. He's like, he's on the fence whether to do something. But like, look, testosterone is one of the things where like it's a growth hormone. So it helps protect tissue. It helps to tell the signal to be alive and repair and replace, right? So obviously too much can be bad, but too little is also bad. Like you want to, there's a sweet spot. But his thing's like, okay, well, my doc just wants to do the injection. I'm like, hey, here's the thing with that. You're not, what if your body can still make it? And this is the kind of going on in the peptide world. The peptide world is banking that, hey, look, if your testes or your body can still make it, that to me is the way forward. And people, and again, this is where people lose the Guyton's physiology textbook. I swear, when they become doctors, they forget basic physiology and hormones and endocrinology and all these loops. And it drives me insane because it's like, what if we can take away the things or offset the things that cause the decrease or the suppression of your body's ability to produce it?
Mm.
And so, hey, look, we know cortisol and stress helps suppress that loop. And he went through a very stressful period a couple years ago. And that's when you saw the labs tank. So I'm like, look, hear me out. Let's try a peptide approach. Meet with our provider. I think this is, again, it's the other approach to do the testosterone injections is still there. It's not going anywhere. If you want to do that, it's not going anywhere. But this peptide mechanism is trying to fix the loop up here that tells the boys down there to do their job and make you testosterone. So 3 weeks in, his testosterone's gone from 200 to 555 with his free. And again, the beautiful part about it is he can come off that the clomiphene, the kisspeptin, the peptide that's helping kind of reset that loop. Again, now we still have to look at how stress and estrogen kind of has this suppression over to kind of slow it down. But hey, that's still a better solution than just like being dependent on exogenous or outside testosterone for the rest of your life. And
Mm-hmm.
the more you take this, the more you make it harder for your factory to make what you're wanting it to make, and you're more dependent on the outside version. So that's the beautiful part about peptides is that it's like supportive and nudging versus like complete coming in and overhauling the factory and saying get out. Like the peptides, like, hey, look, we just want to tell the factory how to do this better without causing it to be shut down.
Yeah. And I think too, sometimes like to be honest, man, I think sometimes people are lazy, man. Like not
Really?
everybody on this journey. And sometimes people just need to just take it. Your testosterone is $200. I mean 200, 200. And what's great was between 800 to 1,000 and take it. You know what I'm saying? Just take because your body, the more your body's even optimized hormonally, the better the other peptides is going to work. So the better, all the other things that you're taking, if you're taking, because some people get on Ozempics and retatrutide and it's like, I was on this for 9 months and it stopped working. My dose has never happened. Where your testosterone is 150. Your testosterone's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So you got to optimize your body hormonally. And like me, I did like when I first started. Let me just tell you what I did because I was 275, 280. My
What
arm.
are you? What are you right now?
I'm like 235, 233. I haven't even really. I may be less than that. But I lean muscle wise, like I focus on it's not just fat loss, but building lean muscle and getting stronger every day. Like I work out 6 days a week, 6, 7 days a week, every day. I'm doing between now even 8 to 10 miles, a day now, like from walking uphill, you know what I'm saying, to running, to sprinting, doing all this. I'm grounding every single day. I'm in the sunlight, 30 minutes a day. I do breath work daily. I take cold showers. Like I'm extreme. I got my peptides right here. I got my I'm doing creatine as well. I'm doing my sea mosses. I'm a machine. Like I put amazing fuel in my body, and I do testosterone. Like I'm doing the peptides, but I also initially I was saying when I initially started doing the testosterone, and that's what gave me the energy personally to
Mhm.
even want to start doing other things like that. So it's always like I do believe doing a nudge and things like that, and creating that. But sometimes people just, hey man, you know,
But here's the case of if a month goes by and that nudge didn't work, then the other's there. And that's how we
right,
approach it. Again.
right,
It's more so the mindset of though, like how you get there is up to you
yeah,
now, but knowing the importance of having these protective things going and working in your favor as you age is going to help the aging process.
yeah,
Um, I mean, again, there's a reason why 20-year-olds don't get dementia and these different things. Because again, like the hormones have an influence on protecting a lot of things as well as other aspects to it. If you picture, again, I want to be respectful of your time. And I
um,
know a lot, but again, I think kind of, again, this was probably 20 minutes ago when we were talking and we were talking about, going to the doctor and da 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 da. Like it's kind of one of those things though, right? As a provider, I don't want to be the fat doctor.
mm, that's
And
right.
this is this thought process is like, you know, how many doctors and providers are not the stereotypical piece of health, but are giving health advice, yet they're not even like, you know what I mean? Like, do you lift weights? Do you walk? Do you exercise? Do you eat healthy? No, you're not. I smelled McDonald's in your office and you're telling me like to get my health in order. And
Hmm.
again, yeah, like how often do you see that, especially in your field? Like,
I'm only going to people who look like that, you know. So I have Dr. Warford out of Houston, Texas, who is a doc I've known for 10 years and love. She's out of Detroit, Michigan, and things like that. So I go see I see her, and I see you. I talk to you, and you say, Rob, you need these levels. You need this to look like this way. Send me your labs. Go get your labs done. And things like that. And then from there, I'm studying it. You know, I watch a lot of Jay Campbell. I watch a lot of the Gabe Brecka. You know, so I'm doing every day. I would say at least 25% of my day is learning something about health, learning something new, figuring something out, checking something out. But running, and I do all this by running, jogging, working on my body daily. So I know even if something, all right, is not the best now. I have enough. I'm aligned with a lot of great people who will check me and try this or what about this or I had this reaction. I can ask about it, But I'm only going to people who look like what they talk to, who look like what they telling me to do, for sure.
well, again, I just say that because like, I just, you see it all the time and you just sit there and you're like, what if that doctor was healthy and actually, because I think like maybe do people miss getting better because again like they're getting advice from somebody that's not really credible in terms of what they're being told and it's just a mismatch. Like I think how many people maybe if they believed in what their doctor was saying because they were, hey man, this guy, I want to look like him.
Right,
I'm listen to whatever he says, like it's the gospel, right?
right,
But when he's 70 pounds overweight and huffing and puffing, just walking from one medical room to the next, like how likely you're gonna basically take what he recommends to change your health is like, or are you gonna be like, I don't know. Yeah, sure. I'll exercise. No, just give me the med. Like, you know what I mean? Because I think there's a credibility issue across healthcare.
oh, and I think it's other along with that too. The most expensive thing you pay for is what you don't know. So a lot
Yeah.
of people don't have the information. Like a lot of people haven't. Like, don't just look at a study or don't look at a YouTube video or TikTok video. How about you really go in and really research or really do your own research for yourself and see, and make that judgment based on, like you were saying, come back into you. All right, this makes sense. I want to try it or not. But like, how many people are taking the time to really do that?
Well, and this is the thing. There's somebody in the past who are like, oh, I took this course and again, I'm like, oh, cool. So it's outdated about 20 years at least. It's going off data from like late 90s, early 2000s, tell you to eat complex carbohydrates
Right,
to your type 2 diabetes. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, look, like fiber is important, but the problem is that you've abused that system to the point where even fiber is not your friend or it's not going to help your blood sugar spike. So you've lost that window here. Well, no, this makes no sense. I got a certification in this course. I'm like, that's fine, but let's use your labs or the person you're working with, use your labs, implement, put a diet in place, and what one helps your blood sugar the best. Or get a glucose monitor, wear it on your arm, watch your phone, and which one jacks your sugars up the worst, and call me back. Guess what? Your seed oils tend to be a usual culprit. And again, I'm like, use that as evidence what your body wants and what it should not want to be near, and build your diet based off using a CGM and watching your glucose responses. Again, got the $200 to $400 to do a month worth of study. That, to me, I love it, because it gives you a real-time reaction, and you're like, ooh, holy, no wonder I'm crashing and feeling like crap. My blood sugar did this, and then it's tanking. Guess what's coming with that? Insulin, and then you're tanking. And that's one of those things where it's like, the proof's in the pudding. And I've done that with a couple athletes I've worked with. They're like, look, I'm trying to push myself and I'm being told to do this. I'm like, and you feel like crap. So, hey, you have the money, go buy a CGM. Let's monitor your glucose when you train. Just start continuous glucose monitors. So like diabetics wear them to track their glucose and insulin.
How much are they typically?
Usually about $200 to $400. It just depends how, if the longer you pay for the app subscription, the cheaper it is. Usually you replace the monitor every month, and I think that's $200, and then the app is another fee. So again, even people that have food sensitivities, like, you can see blood sugar spike based off even immune reactions. So I don't sometimes look, I think we could run money to do a food sensitivity test, but the proof, let's see how your body responds to the various foods you put in, and we'll put in a game plan that makes sense for what we think's going on. We might tweak it, but we're going to have real-time information every day coming in about how you're responding to these foods. And then I want you to correlate it with how you mentally feel. Do you feel like, Thanksgiving dinner crash? Do you feel mentally sharp? And let's start mapping what feeds you and makes you feel like the way you want, and start making a list of the foods that make you feel the way you don't want to feel, because those are probably not good for you. Again, we can correlate it back to usually blood sugar. Again, this thing consumes 25% of all your glucose, right? So when you're not good at providing it or stabilizing it, usually you're going to be like deer in headlights, brain fog, fatigue, blah. I mean, even depression, like you said, there's going to be moments where people are depressed, but I think depression, the best way I like to communicate with it, there can be 20, 50 causes of depression, right? Like, if you get sick with a bug or a virus, do you feel blah? You feel a little down. Well, yeah, because your inflammation's up fighting an infection, right? And again, so we start looking what's happening to your neurochemistry, your hormones. It's not as easy for them to work, so you feel it. But the biggest thing is depression, to me, is the deviation away from where you can be. I think that's the biggest thing. If hey, I like to function here and I'm below that, that to me is depression. Now, what got you there is the thing that has to be figured out. Is it poor relationships, alcohol? Is it poor diet? Is it inflammation? Is it head injuries? There's tons of variables, but knowing that, hey, I tried this and my depression's not solved, it's not over. There are so many causes, there's so many people out there that can actually really help you, and I think it's important. Going back to the question you asked, hey, what could people do that doesn't take money to kind of start building a better health and game plan? What do you think? Again, I'm always curious, what is your morning routine? Because I think that's where it starts for a lot of people. If you just wake up I really hope I get to the gym today, I hope it happens. To me, hope versus I'm going are two very different ways of making things happen. If you hope something happens, I feel like you're destined for disappointment and failure, versus I'm going to do this today. I'm going to the gym at 1:00. It's on my schedule. It's happening.
Yeah. It's you said it right. That's routine, right? So I switched to philosophy, Matt, where it's, I get to go to the gym instead of I have to go. So I'm grateful that I get to go. And I travel a lot. So if I'm in a position where there's no gym around, I'm gonna walk, right? Walking is just as good. I always have, my Apple Watch on, right? So I'm always tracking my steps, and I have a lot of friends that I compete with. So that's a help, because I'm competitive, and I get to see, all right, I'm going to at least do 10 to 15,000 steps a day, regardless. It doesn't matter what's going on. I need to get some movement around. Because they say it was something I just posted. Sitting is the new smoking, right?
Yeah, that was research from probably 2008, UT Southwestern. I think it was actually here at Dallas, where they were doing research looking at if you sit for 8 hours a day, like the stagnancy that it creates in your vascular system is almost the equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes.
Wow, wow, and that's just like what do we do? Typically, we eat, we sit, in our phone scrolling. We're doing those things like that. So, like for me, it's you can scroll and be on the treadmill, and an hour go by, and you're like, oh shoot, even if you have it on three, five, I try to do an incline of at least 12 to 15, in this walk, but. Every single day, it's like I have a goal. I have a goal, a picture in my mind what I need to be, and my why is my son, driving is being here. So it's like every day that I don't do something health related is me saying I don't love my son. This is me personally, So
Yeah.
so I put things in there. It's like, all right, well, am I going to eat today? Yeah. So if I'm going to eat today, I have to do some kind of, I got to keep my body moving, things like that. So that's number one. When I wake up, first thing I'm doing is I'm meditating. All right. I'm meditating and I'm doing breath work. Right. I watch a lot of different like breathing techniques and things like that. But that's so huge is doing the breath work. And then I shower. But I'm gonna do a show. I'm used to taking like mild to cold showers because by the time I would get in the shower, being 1 to 5, it be cold anyway. So I'm gonna take a mild shower. Then the last 2 3 minutes is gonna be cold. If I don't have a cold plunge, and then if I'm doing a lot of calls or Zooms, I'm walking. I'm doing this. If I didn't think the signal would be bad, I would have did this walking,
Yeah.
grounding. I got my feet on grass. You know what I'm saying? I'm touching grass. I'm letting it. I'm sitting out there. I'm closing my eyes. I'm not scrolling for at least 10, 15 minutes. Not. I don't have my phone. I put my phone away and I just get out in nature, try to get some vitamin D, and just like sit and let because there's so many benefits to that as well. So I do a lot of those spiritual techniques as well. Then after that, I'm going work out. Like I like if I'm not working out or doing something like that, I'm cooking, right? And I love cooking now, and I love my food better than all these restaurants I eat. So I'm gonna come and make 6 eggs. I'm gonna marinate some stuff. I'm gonna do some meat, some avocados, some raw Greek yogurt, a protein shake, something like that. But I got to make sure I'm putting in the protein because I know that's super important. So even if I'm not that hungry, I'm going to make sure that I eat something protein related and things like that. But my whole day, focus is set up. If I don't have my son at the time, and I'm doing homeschool because I homeschool my son as well, is it's health.
You homeschool?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's 4 years. Absolutely. That's why he's a genius. No,
Seriously though, like this is our first year doing it, and we were already at a school that was kind of like a hybrid, but we're like, no, like you said earlier, and this is why I'm like, again, I think we connect well. Is like there's no one that's going to care for your own kid as much as you.
nah.
And again, I think it's a whole other discussion about like pulling moms and making them go to work and pulling them out of homes. Like how has that affected health in our society? But
Yeah.
aspect of like again, I know it's not an option for everybody, but if it is, like you pouring your heart to make sure your kids have the foundation to walk out there with is so critically important.
Yeah. I mean, and then you just look at this. This is like college, right? One, I never believed, unless you have a profession, a trade, or something where you really, really need it. Like, I want my doctor to go to college and lawyer and things like that. But business wise, I've always felt like that's something you got to learn. You learn by trial and error. So for me, schooling is the things they teach are a lot of things you need. Like you didn't teach me nothing about credit, and that was huge. You let me
Yeah.
go into debt, and I can't
Well,
get student debt off. Now they're doing some things now, but you can let me borrow 100,000. But if I need a business, you won't let me get my business 10,000. That's my credit. So my son is usually around me. Like you see, he's at my meetings. He's around me, and then it's when my father died, right? You know, um, I had a love coach, right? And I was just fresh off a divorce. I don't think my divorce was settled yet, but I did 3 things. I had a therapist, I had a love coach, then I did marriage counseling on my own, right? And therapy was really great because I had to heal. I said I'm not going to go into another relationship not heal, right? That's unfair. And then you learn, oh, it's all these things from childhood and all these things, like my therapist, one of the things she said was, I didn't have empathy for women. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I had some things that happened in life with certain women in my life. And I didn't feel love. I didn't think women really cared about me. So I had to go and heal all these things. And anyway, I healed it, and I love, and it went up, and now I'm good now. But my love coach, was amazing, because if you don't know how to love properly, like most people haven't been loved properly either,
Mhm.
so it's hard to give something when you never even got it in the first place, right? So she was talking about, I learn best with soft love, right? Like not tough love. Like I'm an Aries, and people can believe and not believe things like that, but I'm a fire sign. So you're not going to make me do anything. You're not going to tell me do anything. You know what I'm saying? But you can. It's a way you can get me to do anything if it's loving. You know what I'm saying? If it's very feminine, if it's very nurturing. And one thing she said when my father died, this is really getting back to why I have my son with me everywhere, is she said, I want with your dad, I want you to think three things that your dad did. Because I called her when my dad died, that you loved, right? And you're grateful for. Now I want you to think about three things that you wish your dad gave you that you never got, and give it to your son, right? And for me, um, it was time, right? It was never any gifts. It was never even things like that. I knew my dad. I wish we had videos, footage. I wish my dad hugged me. I wish we had my dad was amazing. Could have 4 long talks with my friends, but with me, like it was always like it was kind of awkward. You know what I'm saying? Even like hugs and things like that. So I made sure my son, he's very affectionate, he's very loving, and I think kids spell love Time, right? So me, my son is everywhere with me. You know what I'm saying? Like I get to see, monitor why he's doing this, why this happened. And then like the first 7 years, you're speaking to a kid's subconscious, right? So all the information going into your kid's ears, the first 7 years is going straight to how he's going to operate. So why wouldn't you be as protective as you can? Like all he's on the ears, you're loved. You know what I'm saying? Like you're great, you're amazing. You could do anything. You know how smart you are, you know how handsome you are. Like all he's had is positive affirmation and love for 7 years for me and his mother. You know what I'm saying? Because we co-parented, but that's all he knows. Like all he knows is, oh yeah, you're a beast. You know what I'm saying? You can do anything. And when he's at my meetings, he'll be there. He'll be quiet, and they'll be like, man, he's so. I love how he is. He'll shake your hand and look in your eye. Like I can monitor all these things. So like now, as he goes to the work, it's certain things that habits he's not going to even have because it don't make sense. You know, and it makes it a little bit harder because people think just because a kid is homeschooled that they need social skills. I'm like, do you know who I am? You know what I'm saying? Do you know like he around people? His social skills, I guarantee, are better than 90% of the other people because he's a big. I make sure he's a beast. He's around people, and we do activities all the time. But I say all to say that homeschool. When you look at just like people that are even celebrities and great, like they have private tutors. We do cooking classes. I put them in all kinds of sports and things like that. But I can watch and I can spend that time because let's say your kid goes to school, Matt, from 9, or 8 in the morning, then he's home by 5:30, 6, or whatever time. And then how many times is it like he has to eat? Then he's going to bed at 8 o'clock? 9 o'clock, like early. So you get 2 hours.
What about homework, right? I mean,
Like, and I don't even believe in doing home. Like, that's why you won't give me, like, let him get, that should be done at school. You know what I'm saying? That's not my responsibility. That's work is for schoolwork, not no home. Like, he need to be here with me because now he can't even get no time with me spending. So I was like, oh, hell no. Like, no, we not doing that. You know what I'm saying? We'll do an hour or two. We'll do the visual learning. We'll do all that stuff like that. But like, no, like I'm so grateful. I probably got 40,000 pictures and videos on my phone of my son. So all this is recorded. He can see this, he can have this. And the time I spend a lot of time, I'm very present, but I spend a lot of time with my son. So he doesn't miss anything. So I think that.
and I think that's so important. Like, and again, for us making the decision to homeschool, it's the same thing. Like, I remember their stat, like by the time they're 18 and let's say they leave the house, like that's 90 to 95% of the time you'll ever see your kid is before 18.
Exactly.
Which to me, I'm like, Why, if I don't have to give that time up, and I'm not, again, I feel, if you can't do it, I get it, but, and it's not to make you feel bad about not
No.
doing it, but for me, if I can have that time, same thing. I lost both of my parents. I wish I had more time with them.
Hmm.
And again, it's like if I can do something, and again, it might be a learning curve at first, but if my wife and I can do this, and again, do I want to go over math and do grading? No, but like at the same point, I'm like, but sitting down and teaching her and seeing the light bulb go off, I'm like, that is just so rewarding on such a level,
Yeah.
and helping connect dots and seeing that light bulb go off. And then again, I think it's easy for people like, oh, the social, they're not going to be socialized. I'm like, that is, I feel like a lot of times your answer for you to feel good about not considering it.
Thank,
And
thank you.
I, again, and I'm like, look, and I don't like people projecting. And it's like, look, just keep that to yourself.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying you have to do it, but I want to try it for
Right.
this reason. And again, and we have the flexibility where my wife can do it and I can help out in the subjects where, I like science and math. And that's more, my wife is like, you do those ones. I'm happy to give those ones up to you. And it works. And I think it's a beautiful thing because again, it's time and experiences, whether it's early in the morning, whether it's at the end of the day, I get to kind of go over these things. And then too, like, I also make sure that they understand it before they move on to layer it in. And again, it's funny because I think I was the first one in my family to go to university or college. Like Canada, everybody calls college university. It's kind of different. And so I was like, oh man, no one's gone to real university. Like my dad went to college, but college is like, I think a 3 year, or university is like your degree, your honors, your bachelor's. College was usually more viewed as like a certificate. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I need to go to university. Which again, like I knew I want to be a doctor of some type. So I'm like, I need to do it. But there's also this part where I was like, even if I didn't, I'm like, I'm still going to university because I need to. I need to just show like I went off to university. But then the more and more you kind of gain respect for people who are good entrepreneurs, successful, you realize most of the education they got to be successful was not in the university, it was away from it. It
Thank
was on the streets, it was listening, it was psychology of understanding how to have good
you. Right.
relationships. Stuff that, hey, yeah, you can go do a business course at a community college. That's probably enough to give you a foundation. Then the rest is just sweat equity.
Right. And then and even like look at the masters, like look at you're all, most people are being taught the same thing. And obviously that's not working because how many people now even use it was a stat I seen on Walt that said 86% of people, I don't know where to get these numbers at, feel like going to college was a waste of time. And the main thing, and that's why I even wrote the book Connecting Your Rich. I've always known this about relationships, right? It's never been about, you know, you having the most degrees or things like that. It's about you being able to get in the right room with the right people, build value. And if the right person likes you, right?
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is one connection to change your life, right?
Yep.
One, right? So if I can make the right person like me and gain favor and add value and learn how to serve my way to greatness, that's gonna get me there faster than any somebody making a call can get me the same thing it took somebody 10 years to get, right? So it's all about, relationships, right? And building that and nurturing those relationships. And then this, like you said, even with the people that, try to make you feel a certain way, if you are homeschooling your kids like that, just like my son ain't never been bullied. You know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't like the habits that sometimes you get from kids, even these private schools. Like how many people growing up do you see that successful that said they had a teacher that growing up said they couldn't do something, right? And you see some of them that say, some of them that say, hey, I did this, now I became this. But think about how many people had guidance counselor people say, hey, you can't do this, you can't, and just listen, right? So it's like it's another layer because the confidence and the belief and the values and core things it has in him is incredible. It's like it's a cheat code. Like all he hears is positive affirmations, and he has goals written down and knows about credit and assets and liabilities. This is at 8. We're cooking food daily. Like if you look at my
Yep.
business, it's 3. I went and got a private chef to teach him because I seen that he liked
I,
cooking.
I saw him with the little like chef
Yeah,
jacket.
chef coach. You know what I'm saying? Like so, chef third. So like it's about when you spend time with your kids, you can really see and then you can nurture. Okay, he likes gaming or he likes this or he likes this sport, and you put him into it. And that's one of the reasons why you take care of your health to have better brain cognition, more energy. And then you figure out ways to, all right, be creative, and create a solution which is hopefully a business. So you can provide for your family. Because you look at AI now, look at AI in China and these other countries that they're on AI right now. You know what I'm saying? Like they're with the technology and things like that. And we're over here learning geometry and trigonometry. What the hell are we gonna do with that? You know what I'm saying? Like who's ever used, you know, that's like it's so much stuff that you go and you waste and you can't even think, but even college is about networking. If you do go to college and university, it's about the relationships that you build there and the relationships that you build over time. That it all comes down to relationships to me at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I had notes written down when we first started, and I've kept on moving over. But I had this one question I was going to ask you, and
Okay.
again, this is kind of pulling into it, and you hit on it. People telling you like, "Oh no, you just can't do that." Like them labeling limitations on your competency. I think to me it's just one of these things where, as a parent, as if if at the end of the day, my daughter knows there's nothing holding her back from anything she's wanting to do, nothing. Like both of my daughters, if at the end of the day, if I can hang my hat and like I did, the biggest and most important thing is that they know no boundaries. Like they set their boundaries of what they can accomplish, achieve, and have in their life. So they can create anything again, but again, it might take hard work, but they can do it. I think that's the biggest thing. If I can leave them with that feeling of like, if it is to be, it's up to me kind of thing. Like I can do it.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
yeah, because again, there's always going to be the negative, like, oh, you don't want to do that. It's so hard. And in those people, it's so like, I don't think they even realize that they're doing it, but you hear
No.
it. And I hear this like coming in, and I feel fortunate. I'm like, I feel like I have a good, strong foundation to like push through it. But I'm like, that's my goal as a parent. I'm like, I need to instill that same like piss and vinegar in my kids that again, like they can do anything. It might take some like calluses to be formed on your hands, but you can do whatever you want. And there's nothing that can hold you back if you want something bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
That was so my question was like, do you think limitations on people are self-imposed or from like external forces or both?
I think it's both because growing up, depending on the parents that you have, they say, I forget the stat, but we have it's a ridiculous number of audio tapes in our head from our parents that we
Yeah.
growing up, and our parents are the ones that we trust the most because they had us initially. So if our parents are saying, you can't do nothing, you ain't gonna be anything, be realistic, yelling at them, certain things like that, they're doing things because parents sometimes aren't the greatest and they're selfish and sometimes they're jealous of their kids as well. It's like, that's just, you can still do it, but it's a lot more to overcome. Right. And I
Yeah.
think if we just took the time to really know and be intentional about what we're saying, being gentle, like even with with boys, with our sons, like saying, hey, not just be a man, don't cry, stuff like that. No, it's okay to share your feelings. It's okay. Get it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, get it out, but let's process this. All right, why do you feel like that? Right? What happened? Like you ask questions. So you're still correcting in a nurturing and loving way, but you still allowing him to experience his emotions. So I think it's all about what you are putting in and then letting the kid watch. Because
Yeah.
sometimes they just got the kids on YouTube and stuff all day. You know what I'm saying? And they're watching, they're letting YouTube,
Be
and
the model.
yeah, raise their kids and things like that. So that also can be harmful way. Because I mean, there's certain things that my son is saying, start saying something, and I'm like, all right, what are you watching? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
and
that's it. Who are you hanging around? What are you watching? What's this new influence? Because your behavior is like different, and
exactly.
that's positive.
Yeah, so you just got to monitor. You have to monitor that, and I think at the end of the day, like your drive, what you're supposed to become, you're gonna become because it's resilience. It's certain things I think are innately in you that we all have because there's no way with the experiences in that I've been through that I should have did and had the things that I have because I didn't. You know, I never seen that. I didn't. How do you go from wanting this and we having? I think our house was 1,800, 1,500 square feet growing up that I was in for 20 years, right? And I left for college, but they were in that. But then I had bathrooms. I had bathrooms, and I had multiple houses since then that were 1,800 square feet. My bedroom was 3,000 square feet in my last house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it,
yeah. Episode of Cribs about your place, right?
right. So, and I'm not going that big. I don't know. I may do it. But it's just like life is just, man. It's you go through life and you learn, and the thing is, you just can't take it as serious, man. Like you can't care, but not that much. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of things are they'll happen. They're out your control, and it's not what happens; it's what you do about what happens. And I think that's the one of the best teachers in life is that. All right, messed up things are going to happen. You know what I'm saying? No
Yeah.
matter how good you are, what kind of person you are, stuff is going to happen that's out of your control. That's going to suck. People want to take advantage of you. People are going to hurt you. You're going to get your heart broke. Like all these things are going to happen to you. But it's how you react and what do you do about that now? You know what I'm saying? You have to be resilient, be positive, listen to stuff daily. Just like what you're putting in your mouth, you need to watch, inspect what you're listening to. You know what I'm saying? What
Yeah.
you see and what you listen to has to be the same thing. Who you're around, all that has to be positive, all that has to be good, and all that you have to be very intentional about.
All right. So I know we've been going for a minute. We could do probably 20 of these and quite easily. So I want to kind of focus up on a few kind of exit kind of questions because I think, we talked about, what to put in your mouth in a general sense. I think kind of like having a why, like what should be the foundation of your philosophy? Like, because I think having a why is like, what's your purpose? Your son, like being this role model and giving and kind of being like helping him have time, like having that why makes it easy for you to then make all these other decisions around your day. Like if if something does not align with your why, then it's easy for you to say, hey, no. And you're not stressed about having to say no. Because I think, for me, for a while, I was like, you just want to say yes to everybody. But you're like, at the same point, it's exhausting if you say yes to people that you're not supposed to say yes to because it doesn't align with you. It's not nurturing. You know what I mean? Like, so it's okay to say no. And I think when you know your why, it's easy to know when you should say yes, when you should say no. Protect your time, protect your thoughts, protect your feelings. Um, but like the next piece, I think too, is like what you feed your mind is so critical. So on that sense, I know, I've seen, little posts of you speaking to younger males and trying to be a positive voice in them. So what, like, do you have people that you listen to be a positive voice in yourself every day? Like I got mine, like, do you know Les Brown?
Absolutely. You grew up in the same neighborhood as me, Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. So I love Les Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to be in a master, like I had, see him speak a couple years ago. And again, I just told he was going to be mentally like retarded. And again, his basically is one of the biggest speakers from stage. And again, I love
Mm-hmm.
the story. I love his sayings, his things. And again, it's just, there's so many like pieces of knowledge. So to me, like I have an hour drive some days to work. I can turn on the radio and you hear like the chaos, the politics, the
Yeah.
sport, all that crap means nothing. I'm like, I might listen to like, hey, who won the Cowboys game or who won this? Turn it off, and then I put Les Brown on, or I have like my go-to people to again like make sure my brain is being fed good, nurturing kind of feedback. Who are yours?
I like 'cause I've been in personal development so long, so I shuffle, right? Like Jim Rohn was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I like David Goggins.
yeah.
I like Eric Thomas, ET hip hop preacher. I like
I know
uh,
Eric. Eric Thomas, he always has the hat on, right?
yeah,
And he's
yeah, yep. ET. I like I like a lot of spiritual teachings too. I like Wayne Dyer. I like rest in peace. I like Jerry Esther Hicks. I like a lot of attraction manifestation type ones. I like Stephen Covey, the Seven Successful Habits, and I really like the what's the guy? It's a couple. Like now, it's like I'm more on like more marketing driven ones. What's the guy with the hat on? Who was a fitness around the gyms? I post him a lot. What's his name? $100 million leads. 100 million. I forget. So him, and I like a lot of like high vibrational. Like I research a lot of like this vibrations, like frequencies and things like that. I like
Dispenza type stuff.
like like so phasal frequencies, things like that, like you know, things over like 900 megahertz, it syncs in the lines and things like that. Um, theta beats and things like that. I listen to those going to bed. I like what else? I watched The Secret. The Secret. It came out. I probably watched that 1,000 times, right? Like that the Meta Secret, a lot of metaphysical teachings and things like that. I study as well because I believe 95% is spiritual, 5% is physical. So I like a lot of teachers from that, just learning different perspectives on all of it. Like, but I like peaceful things. I like it'll come back to me, but like right now, I'm listening to a lot of Jay Campbell. It's really all peptide type guys. So I
Yeah.
listen to a lot of Gary Brecka, a lot of Jay Campbell. I like him, Hunter Williams, as far as peptides, because that's the business I'm in. I want to master it. But yeah, so when you're talking about Drive Time University, when you're going somewhere and it's an hour drive, that's Drive Time University. You can take that time to learn and feed your mind. Um, and things like that. Because I only can hear, see, speak positivity. Like I can hear certain things, but I don't let it in. Like it's like, all right, even if somebody's being negative, it's like, all right, I understand. You can share, vent, let me know what's going on, but we can't stay there. You can't be a mayor of misery. So,
So let me ask you this question: how much do you watch the news?
Harmozy, Harmozy is his name.
Jose, how often do you watch the news and just turn on the?
Never.
You don't let anybody television for you?
No, no. Like I don't watch TV. I don't even watch TV. Like like I was at a sister's birthday yesterday, and the game was on, and that's the first time I even like looked at a game this season because it's like it's great. They're living their dreams, and it's like whether they win or lose. I'm not a sports bettor. I think I probably care more if I was probably making something off that, but it's like that is really good for. I'm happy for them. Like great. I see they have the lot and they're paid because they affect and a lot of people watch them, which is great. But I'm trying to leave my legacy now, so I've really just been a lot more intentional. For a long time I've been like that. Ever since I got network marketing, I think 20 years ago, I've been like, no, it's only certain things, even shows. Like I gotta really like a show. Like I love Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, some things like that. Like Billions, I like Billions because I watch certain things that kind of align with what I
Yeah.
have going on, but it's rare that I'll do something.
It's interesting because it's like as I get more protective of what like hits this space, then my list of what I watch on TV, I'm like, why would I watch that now? Like it's just to me, it's harder to be like, out of boredom, like, yeah, I'm bored. You know what? Instead, it's like I'll just go to bed early and wake up early and start creating earlier versus
Exactly.
staying up for 2 hours to watch something I really am not invested in. And same thing with sports. Like, I grew up playing hockey, lacrosse, volleyball, and sports and all that. Not, I appreciate and I love them. I like honestly, I like what it does from a growth standpoint for the athlete. But, to me, to get so upset about an outcome that I can't control and like, you start
Yeah.
kind of like, this is kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna be one to say it. They're gonna get mad at me not play. But no, you right. It's. I mean, when you think about it, man, you think people like they want more. It's money, better health. They want these things, but the thing is, like, it's not going to just happen. Like, it's not just going to fall out of the sky, man. And for me, it's like, what if you took that last hour in the first part of your day to focus on, go in your imagination, visualize, and see yourself living it? Like, people don't even, if you could take 15 minutes out of your day and just visualize and put yourself in a state, right? I love Tony Robbins too. Tony Robbins said, when two people meet, whoever has most, whoever in the rapport is there, whoever has more influence whoever has more influence will guarantee like that sale. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so when you are meeting somebody, like how much time did you take and visualize that, all right, I'm about to speak now. This many people are going to see it and affect it, or I'm going to be affected by this. Like this is going to go viral in a positive way, or
Mm-hmm.
like I'm going to do this. And, I have all kind of affirmation, incantation I speak. Money comes easy and frequently, whether I'm working, sleeping, or playing. Money flows freely to me, in avalanches of abundance. Like, I'm always speaking these things into existence. Like, because I believe, abracadabra means you speak what you create. So I believe your words are powerful. I believe your word is your wand, and you can create things just based off you speaking it with conviction and believing it. And I believe once it doesn't have to, just because it does something on external doesn't really show what it is, doesn't mean it's not real. Like, I go inside my imagination and I see it. Like, before I got that house, I was getting evicted out of a house that I was renting, right? That was 2,000 square feet. But I wrote down, I'm going to have this many bedrooms. I'm going to have this closet. My driveway is going to be like this. Lines are going to come out of a person's mouth, water's going to come in the line's mouth. I'm going to have garages for every car, his and her closets everywhere, theaters. How does that happen in less than a year and a half later?
You put it out there and you started going towards it.
Thank you. I wrote it. I wrote the vision, and they said you're 30% more likely to attract what you want just writing it down, not just texting it, but letting your muscles move and actually writing it down. But I would see the vision, and even like, you got to get past this. Your environment may not be what you want it to be, but you got to start falling in love and getting excited and believing that it's already done. You got to believe. Like, belief is more important than ability. Belief. Belief, imagination. I started speaking when my health was terrible. I'm in the best shape of my life, man. Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, I'm in the best shape of my life. Every day I speak it. Every day, then I get somebody that comes and I meet you, I meet this, and it just comes to me because I speak it. But it's not like I'm any different. People think I'm lucky. No, luck is laboring under correct knowledge. That's what luck is. You create your luck, right? You create what you believe and what you believe you're worthy of. So the more I love myself, I work on my health, the more confidence I get. I know that I'm worthy of it. I believe I'm worthy. And just for me, I don't need to do this to impress this person or impress this girl. I'm worthy because I know who I am. You know what I'm saying? And I know how special I am and how great I am. And I tell myself every single day. So outside opinions don't even affect how I feel about myself. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of practice to get to that point. But once you get there and you believe, you really believe. My mom would say, when you believe, you receive. When you doubt, you go without. Right? My mom would always say, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You know what I'm saying? You can do all things. All I heard is, I can always do it. Oh, Rob gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Rob gonna be a billionaire. She's absolutely right, because I am. I am. It's already done. So I walk it, talk it, act like it, move like it, put myself in those. I watch it. I study it. And now it's just letting other people see the manifestation. But to me, it's always been done.
Dude, man, I love it. I mean, I could sit here, we could just keep for hours. Because again, it's like there's a good energy like exchange, right? It's
I
not
know.
it lifts you up. Like, I'm ready to go sit there and either go work out, go like do something awesome with the kids that's high energy. Because again, like and I think again, this is like being around people that you want the energy. Like, again, obviously you have to bring a similar energy or else you suck the energy out of the relationship. But I think that's one of the things too, like, as a provider, seeing people in relationships or in an environment that the energy is, they want to be here, but they're allowing the energy around them to be down here. And I'm like, that's half of your problem. Like, you're allowing people to say no and give you limits. So that's pulling you back. You're allowing this person or this doctor to say, oh no, you can't do this without this, Matt. Or I'm like, and you see that. And I think that's the hardest part as a provider, to basically rehab the kind of the spirit, the energy, the faith, the mindset aspect. And that's honestly why this podcast was part of our mission, was like getting people like you, even though it's like health, wealth, and the ultimate self, we put the ultimate self part is really there for the other aspect that's intangible outside of health. And that's really mindset. And like, what do really successful people have from a mindset standpoint? And I think that's, Kai, you're the first guest we've had that has been like really, really mindset and heavy driven on that. Obviously you have the health piece too, but I think the mindset is huge.
Yeah, it's it's everything. You have to go there in the mind first before the body goes there, right?
Oh,
And once you learn that it's 95% spiritual and it's only 5% physical, right? Like it's that's more. You can do less and accomplish more. You don't have to work hard. You have to work smart. You know what I'm saying? Like work smarter, not harder. Like it's the example where the guy, you want to spend 8 hours cutting down the tree, or you want to spend 7 hours cutting, sharpening your axe in an hour cutting down the tree. I've always believed in I'll spend 7 hours sharpening the axe, right? Like,
yeah,
or I'll pay this person, or I'll get an agreement where he sharpens the axe and this person cuts it down, and this give me my small percentage, right? Like, so
yeah.
I like I'm always trying to do leverage that way and use connections, affiliates, partnerships, because we can all win together, right? And we can all. I don't have to have the product or the service. You can have it, but I say, hey, Matt, I have this client, so I have this network. What if we did this? We combine, I have this, you have that. Why don't we do this together and see what we can do? And that's how, you do a
Let's
lot.
do it.
Like that's how we do it. And that's why, like, when you asked me, there was nothing to say, absolutely, I'll jump on this. I'm glad. I feel like I've been so full because not a lot of people know this about me. Like, you get on my social media and you may just see lifestyle things sometimes, like, because in healthcare, you really don't need to recruit people like that per se. Like, you really just, see the fruits. And when people see these fruits, I mean, they can think a lot of different ways. Some people think I'm a rapper, athlete, something like that. But it's like, no, I actually have a lot more to give. And I think if people understood me more, or got to know who I was as a person, um, it would do good. And not only would I think it would motivate other people, but they get to see, like, man, I can do that too. Because Rob is, you know, he's no different than me. He can be a little more disciplined in these areas and other areas where I'm not. But we all have the same 24 hours. We all, you know, really have the, whatever opportunities that we want. And I really believe that whatever you focus on expands, and you focus on serving and giving more, you'll be blessed more. And that's what I know I need to do. Like, I didn't accomplish to do all these things just to be low key and be, let me just play it down and just be, I don't want to really shake no feathers, but no, like, I need to, let me do that. Let me go. You asked me, yes, I got a call from Chase, one executives wanted me to speak to that. I'm like, yes, I'm going to put myself out there because I need to serve more people while I'm here. I owe that to my parents. I owe that to, God, society, and I owe that to my son. So let me be a positive aspect as much as I can. So I thank you for the opportunity of doing this, even though I'm trying to fix my lighting and all this stuff all the time.
But I honestly, who cares about to be honest, like, the words you're speaking are way more powerful than the perfect lighting in the background. Because I think if people can take away from this, I mean, the words you're saying, like, there's gems in a lot of these sentences. And I think, again, you can tell you have a lot of, you protect your mind, you put positive influences in just from the way you speak. And I think it's great. And I think more people need to go towards, and again, it's funny because I look at how I kind of went through my 18, 19, as I was kind of going through, like, oh, science is everything, like science explains everything. And then you kind of like go through and you kind of go through university, and you go and you get into like your professional school, and you start kind of going through, and science can only explain so much, and faith has to be this other part. And I think, for so many in society, we've gotten so far away from having good faith. I think we need to go back and have faith as like a foundation. It's like through and through, whether it's religion, whether it's spirituality, whether it's just faith in just doing the right thing, and moral, like faith. Like, there's so many ways we can look at it. Religion's like a off-putting thing. Start somewhere else and just have faith in something bigger than yourself. But I think it's, for me, it was this slap in the face when I got into cadaver lab, and you start kind of working on a cadaver, and you're like, you thought it was, again, I'm like, God, I don't think this is gonna be weird, like dissecting a human body for 8 months. And then you sit there and, like, it was just, there's no spirit there. There's something, like, it's just the empty vessel. That to me was like this moment. I'm like, there's something much beyond, biochemistry and biology, like in science. Like, there's this spiritual aspect that, yes, this is a body, but the thing that made this body a human was that spirit, and that's gone. It's vacant. And it was just like, a physical, again, it made it easier to go through. And then as you dissect, you're like, moment after moment, the perfection of the architecture of your body, you're like, I'm sorry, that the fact that this was done by chance to me does not seem realistic anymore. There is some bigger energy and power that orchestrated every little thing on this earth, and how we feel and how we interact, and how the energy aspect, the intelligence within us. Like, again, there's something bigger than science can explain. And I think this is where faith needs to kind of come back in and be like, hey, look, I was here this entire time. You guys took a break. And that's how I'm kind of going through my life, is like, look, I went through this kind of science can explain everything to holy crap, it does not explain the
Mm,
majority of things, and faith needs to kind of come back into
mm,
my life and be more the guide of it. And I think it's interesting because that's where, like, to me, it's like, I think as we step back and look, I feel like faith has kind of disappeared across the board for a lot of people. And I think that's one of the reasons where it's like, man, you know, we need voices that give us faith. And again, and whether you call it darkness and light, or faith or fear, like, again, it's always this battle. And if you got more darkness or more fear versus fear and or versus faith and light, I think it's really easy to get in a bad spot. So I think it's one of those things where, the positive factors, whether it's faith, whether it's positivity, whether it's a voice, those things we need more of. So you provide a huge amount of that just in a little short couple of months I've known you. It's been, again, I love watching. Again, I'm not a huge fan of like sitting on social media, but your posts, I always sit there. I'm like, again, your son doing something cool with his dad. Again, you walking, showing me, the streets of Miami or something. Again, it's just, it's not some negative
mm.
voice. And again, I think that's you practice what you preach. So I respect you for that. And then again, I respect the friendship. So
Likewise, likewise, my friend. I'm glad you had me. I feel like, I poured a little bit of my, I've been drinking this water, but I was able to pour some I was in me into another cup. And I feel like now that my cup is a little more, I can take more in now. So I think it's good that we share as much as we can, because now as I give more, I open myself to expand and receive that much more. So I think, even with your wisdom and what you're doing for people, and you're really giving people the time and the trust again and that space, I love what you're doing as well. And I think, anybody watching, definitely, if you're in Dallas, definitely make sure you check out his institute, everything they're doing. And yeah, for me, I'm between Texas, Miami, Florida, Detroit, and Ohio often. And like I said, I have a peptide company that has everything that you can imagine, that you need, that your body needs, things like that. So anywhere I can be of service, we can network
yeah.
around, as Rob Coates. I know, Matt, you're going to say.
Well, and then so what we'll do, we'll make sure we send you the link, and so anybody, we can kind of share peptide. Again, maybe you can shoot me a text, and I'll link it into like the YouTube part, and then the show notes. So when people click on the podcast, we can link the peptide link in the show notes. I think too, your book, your Amazon book. Again, you can find on Amazon. You said Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah.
I think pick what you want from this. I think there's a
Right.
lot of good information. And
Yeah, a lot.
Even if you got, hey, shit, we got off the podcast, there's 5 books I think everybody should read.
Right.
Here's the list. Like, I'll put it in the show notes. Like, again, I'm here to help people kind of enrich their lives in ways that not necessarily always conventional ways. I think but ways where I think are the best across the board to really enrich their lives for a long period of time. I'm trying to think. All right, so number one thing, just to summarize, you said love yourself has to be number one.
Yeah.
Health was the number 2.
Yeah.
You got a number 3?
I would say number 3 is, I'd say, be happy along the journey. Like, trying to find a way to have, to enjoy the process more, not just the result. Because along this way, this journey, a lot of the things you're going through, a lot of the hardcore, the 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 things that you experience along the journey are the things that you appreciate so much
Yeah.
more. You know, it's hard to appreciate them now, but it's because you're in it. You know, when you got bills that's due tomorrow or 2 months, you know, and your health is like when you're in the part where you got to change, it's hard, you know, but it's also noticing that and the people that you're going to network and connect. Every person you meet, I think, is just a mirror of yourself. You know, they say meet God everywhere you are. So we can just learn to say, you know what, this is a teaching moment. This is this obstacle right now. Good. Like, all right, it's hard. Good. This is going to help me later. All these things, you know, you're going through challenges, or you know, you got to look at them as good. I'm going to beat it. I'm going to be great. I'm going to make it happen. This is a part of the process, but I'm going to learn a way to be happy because happiness is you can't get that externally from another person, from a partner, a business partner, a spouse. That has to be something within. And I wish I do. I wish I
Well,
knew that you know, just you know, that's happiness is really an inside job, and it all comes down to you. You know, it comes down to you doing what you enjoy and things like that. So, I mean, not to be long winded, but
no,
I
I
would,
mean, I think you see though, right? When people think happiness is out external, it's they're always chasing the next thing to make them happy. And when it's not there, they're unhappy, right? It's like it's the next high, whether it's hey, I made a viral video. Did that make you happy? It's like, okay, but what's the bigger picture behind that? Or hey, I made $1 million. Like, did that make you happy? But all right, but what happens when you are not making $1 million the next month? Are you unhappy?
right.
I think if happiness is always tied to something that's like,
Yeah,
kind of not from within, then it's again, you're destined to have short windows and lots of void. And I think that to me is the part where, again, faith, the why, your true why really come into place so that your direction of where you really can kind of come back home and refocus when you need to is always there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so like, I mean, people appreciate. They got that's why they got to listen to this podcast over because you'll appreciate a lot of things you're saying. I'm saying, and we're saying. People will hear it, but it's rare that people like they're listening for something, but they don't really listen because success leaves clues. And
Mhm.
it's a lot of clues in this that weren't like, hey, this is what you do, but I really still said, hey, this is what you do. You just have to like pay attention and really go back and hear and say, oh, this is what it meant because this was it. This is what I needed, right? But it may take you a couple times going back and listening to it again. But really, um, yeah, I would just say, you know, just hear it, listen to respond. I mean, even the thing with listening, that's a $1 million gem right there because it's so much power in empathetically listening. I mean, get to the point where you can allow somebody to have their perspective, whether you agree with it or not. You can listen and let them just feel and let them get everything out. Not to the point where people, I just gotta say I got a question. I don't want to forget about it. Yeah, that's selfish. Like if you know what you're going to say before I'm done talking, you're not listening.
Yeah.
Take the time to get good at listening. That's $1 million gem. You know, your family, your kids, like what we said about that's a gem right there. Like these are all lessons and courses and books. I probably read 3,000-4,000 books, like in seminars. Like you're getting all the 2 hours. We've been talking for a while, but you get to get condensed down, not even for a charge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but it's like you're getting this for free. So you got to like respect it, appreciate it, take it in, take the lessons. And then I say that the last two things I'll leave them with is the way to get, there's two ways to get whatever you want, right? From any person. Two ways. I talk about my book. If we want to build a relationship with anybody, high level, person, anybody you want. The first way you do it is you got to add value first, right? You got to add value first. And that seems simple, but no. Like most people come to you, me, successful people, hey, can you mentor me? Can you do this? They're always coming with a handout, and you got to go with, all right, how can I add? How can I give? All right, a connection, a resource. Oh, I got your book. I read it. It's amazing. When you talked about this part, like, oh, your son is find ways, little secrets to, all right, add value first. It doesn't always have to be monetarily, but number one, add value first. All right, how can I give? Like even with this, with me and Matt, how this builds our relationship because this was an ask of him. Hey, can you do my podcast? Right? Yes. All right. One, because it builds a relationship, right? And if I need something from Matt, how easy it is for me to ask Matt for something once I've done something for him. It's way easier, right?
Yep.
And people they're afraid to ask because one, they don't know how to ask, then two, they don't feel worthy because they don't have any relation. All right. So number one, add value first. And then secondly, the second secret I do when I'm building any kind of relationship with any person is find a way to find out what their passion is and help them fulfill it. Right. Like I got a video on my YouTube of Valuetainment, the guy who's over Valuetainment, and he talks about how um, he had a very wealthy friend of his. His son was in jail, and he was like, it's really broke up about it. And he went to go see his son. He went to go see his son, and he was like, "Wow, you did that?" And he turned over his contacts. Hey, this is my Rolodex. Tell them I said I sent you. And off of that, he made $30 million off of one connection. Right. What people miss is that, all right, you can get whatever you want from a person if you know how to give it to them. You know what I'm saying? If you know how to do it. And you got to make people, the right people, know, like, and trust you. Once you make a friend where somebody knows, likes, and trusts you, they'll give you different access to them that they wouldn't give another person.
Yep.
That's how you do it. That's how you get access because you want people to believe and know that you're your friend. Because when you're my friend, what I would normally charge somebody for, I'm not going to do because you're my friend, right? But people have to get out of the mentality where it's all right. If I do this for you, you owe me this, or like just this take. No, in this society, when you come in adding value first, and then I've been listening to this, or what is the biggest problem that I didn't get solved from that? What if I help him solve that? Right? What if I help? What does he need? Like this, I said I had a cousin that just had a stroke and can't feel the right side of his body. So somebody to come in and say, "Hey, I got this. If he tried this, I had an example where somebody was doing this and it worked, and it helps my cut." Like, what does that do? You know, what does that do? How does that increase? Shorten our time, even though we've only known each other a short period of time. How do I feel about this person because how this person made me feel? Because they came to me giving value, right? So if they just took this little gem right there, I've made millions, millions and millions and millions of dollars just by knowing this secret, knowing this one trick right here. Right here. It's been this secret alone would help you. If you don't have peptides, you don't have money this helps you get everything you want without money doing this.
It's that same principle. Somebody like, again, a big thing is like for me is like give something of value and ask nothing in return. Just again, because you're doing it because it's just you're happy to do it. And again, obviously, if I'm always doing and giving value and asking nothing in return, and it's never returned back, then obviously it's a one-way relationship, and that's going to feel itself out.
Exactly. Eventually, but like you said, Matt, it's dig your well before you thirsty. That's what I tell people. Dig your well before you thirsty, because it will come a time, even if you have it's feast time, right? It's abundance.
Yeah.
See, it's successes like this. The same people going up, the same people going down. It's a cyclical, right? It's not going to get to success and it's be smooth. No, you're going to lose that. You're going to make a bad investment. Somebody's going to take it. Somebody may die, health reasons. Like it's all these things. So you got to get it. Planting seeds and digging your well before you thirsty. Because like you said, it's right. It is reciprocal. I do know that. All right, cool. I build up. I'm gonna do this. I don't need to ask of Matt, right? But I don't. In the back of my mind, eventually, that all right, cool. If I need anybody, because I've never really had people I can count on. I didn't have investors or people that all right do this. But if I said, all right, cool, let me just. I know people, relationships are everything. Let me go add value to as many people as I can, and then when I need something, or if I'm in a drought, I definitely got somebody that's gonna help me. So it's just it's digging well before you're thirsty. Like you're right. Like Yeah.
Well, man, I know I've taken up a couple hours of our conversation here.
Hey, this is awesome. Like this is what I've been wanting to do, and I'm glad we got so much content from this. I'm glad we can probably
uh,
break so many.
we should keep the VA happy for a couple of weeks, maybe
Yeah.
a month with this edit. The the cool part again, I think this, again, I'm sitting here. I've seen some of your content where you're doing this like public speaking to try to help, like, again, mindset from a young age and getting the foundation there for young men and these young boys. I saw some of this and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I love this. And I saw how passionate you were in some of these videos on, again, on your posts. And I'm like, ah, this is awesome. Like these are like this is stuff that energizes me. I'm like, fuck, you know what? Like I got pulled away over here, maybe focusing on starting a new business, right? But it's like it kind of nudges you back to be energized in core values and things that I value. And I'm just sitting here and I can't help but think like you were all, again, your energy in that video. Again, I don't know if it was a year ago, 5 years ago, but like you said, like you're a healthier version now, and you're continuing. I'm like, now what if this version of Rob now, 50, 45 pounds lighter, more energetic, healthier, like again, you're even more dialed in, and you go back and you do that same kind of talk to those boys, like what difference are you going to bring to that group? And again, and even though the product was probably awesome whenever that was, I'm like, what's version 3.0 or 2.0 going to be doing what you do with the health that's kind of going up the mountain to a better spot? So that's the exciting, or what's your business capacity going forward, because again the health is behind it. That's a cool part. I can't wait to see.
Right. Way better. Yeah, it's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like just eating right, taking up. I wish I would have been on this 20 years ago. But the great thing, people listening now, I hope you can see that, you know, it's something that, is so great, and it just makes you younger and you age backwards. And, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So those talks are gonna be even better now because I don't have any brain fog. I don't have any, like it's
What
much better.
if you? I always say to patients, like in a year from now, 90% of your cells are going to be different. They're going to be new. They're going to be rebuilt. You can change the soil, water them, and fertilize them with a much better environment, or you can keep doing what you're doing. But they're going to, so you have a huge array of opportunity in a year from now. If you provide your body with the right things, you can become a completely different person from a health standpoint, from an energy standpoint. It's not going to be necessarily overnight. It doesn't mean it's going to take months. But again, if you start putting the right things into your environment, or you start giving your body, the plant, the right things can be drastically different. And when we would do a bunch, I love doing health talks. I like trying to get people thinking. And I would always just put a picture of a plant up in the corner, and it'd just be a wilting plant. And I'm like, what's this plant need? And people would give such better answers to a picture of a plant than their health. Oh, it needs sunlight. Oh, it needs better water, or the soil might be damaging it. The soil's bad. It's like, it needs better food. It needs better nutrition. Got too much of something. It's got an excess of light. And I just go, like, you just did a better assessment of this plant picture than you do to yourself, right? It's kind of like, do you have too much of something, too little of something? Like, just start taking that mindset and applying it to yourself, as if like, is there anything I might be doing too much of? Am I not doing enough of certain things? Am I overindulging in certain things? Like, if people just took that approach to their health, you'd be surprised what you start to even self become aware of by just taking that simple approach. So,
That's good.
all right, man. Well, I'm going to stop this before we go another 3 hours and make the podcast a 12-hour marathon. So,
Right.
I appreciate you, man. I'm going to give us a little sign off, but I'll just let's touch base after here. So, okay. Anyways, I appreciate you. This is again a very great podcast, huge energy. Rob Coates, health entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, but to me, just such a great mindset. I think that's the biggest thing, that the mindset creates the success in everything you do. And again, I respect you. The dad you are, I see that. Again, there's so many aspects of respect towards you. So again, I appreciate you jumping on, giving us 2 hours of your time. It's definitely highly valued, and I hope people take away something very, very meaningful. If it's just one thing, I'm happy that's going to be an impactful thing. So until next time, we'll jump on. And again, I'd love to take one subject out of the 2 hours and maybe we just focus on one area next time and go deeper.
I'm
So
ready. Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready too. You know, I still got a lot more to get off my chest. So, yeah, let me know. My lighting will be great. Everything will be. I'll be ready. You know,
I
excited.
mean, I'll have to fly out to Miami and we can do it on the beach or something in
Oh,
person.
even
Way better backdrop than this, and we don't have
right.
to worry about the sun.
I'm ready. Whenever you are.
We'll talk to you soon, sir.
All right.